Hello there everybody, how's it going? It's Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff here on FlossTube. I am coming to you on this Sunday, July 31st, 2022 with a very overdue update. It's been a long time. So before I get into everything, I'd like to say welcome. Thank you all so much for spending some time with me today. A big chunk of time because I have so much to talk about. If you are a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. And if you are new here, welcome. And I hope you find something you like. On this channel, I talk mostly about cross stitch. I thought I might talk about books today, but I've got so much to go over in stitching that I think today is going to be just cross stitch. Because it's been about 6 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks, I think, since my last update video, which was totally not intentional, but what are you gonna do? I mean, life and stuff. So that's the way it goes, but we are here today and I am here to film today. I don't know what the light's gonna be like today. It's a beautiful, very cloudy, very kind of rainy, but not raining kind of day. So it's a little gloomy, which is lovely, but I don't know what the light's gonna be like today. So we'll just go with it. So like I said, I have about 6 or 7 weeks worth of projects to show you. I thought that I might just do kind of a July update and forget June, but like basically everything I worked on in June, I also worked on here in July. So we'll just look at it all. We'll just go through it all, and it's going to be a little mini whip parade. I think I have probably 10 or 12 projects to show you. Yeah, I have some Q&A, just a little bit of Q&A from my last couple of videos to go over. And then we're going to talk very briefly about plans because tomorrow is August. Just let that sink in. It hasn't quite sunk in for me yet that we are in the last, like firmly in the second half of the year. That's wild. But nonetheless, tomorrow is August, so we'll talk very briefly about my plans for that. And then I have a ton of haul. Last weekend was the New Jersey FlossTube retreat, and so I bought some stuff and I also have some other stuff that I had purchased previously, so we have quite a bit of haul, and I kind of just want to share it with you all. Okay, so let's get going, and we are going to start off with some Q&A. So I've got them typed up and printed out here below, so that's what I'm referencing. So first question is coming from Isabelle. She is HAED Addict with crafts here on FlossTube. Hey Izzy. And Izzy asks, how do you kit up your HAEDs? So I know that I've talked about this previously, but it's kind of changed a little bit, so it's definitely worthwhile discussing here on camera. So my favorite method is to use floss organizers. These are the Paco brand floss organizers, but I also have some kind of off-brand ones that work basically the same. They're a little bit wider perhaps, but it's the same concept. So you have a length of thread looped around here, and then these foam bits kind of hold it all together. And then you have these inserts where you can draw symbols, write numbers, etc. So this is my favorite way of working from my HAEDs. Now, historically speaking, I just put a single length on here, and my favorite length for full coverage is about 2 feet, and so I have about a 2-foot length on each of these. Historically speaking, I have pulled from my master set. I've taken just a length out of my master set of DMC. I've kind of changed that. So now each of my HAEDs, each of my full coverage pieces, and really each of my major projects have their own DMC. So here is this thread organizer I just showed you is for Snow Castle. So these are the DMCs for Snow Castle. I stitch 1/1 on 25 count, and I can estimate that I get about 7,000 stitches out of each skein. And so I get enough, but I round that down. So let's say it says that I need 6,500 stitches, then I'll get 2 skeins of that color. And then if I have extras, then that goes into my master set later. But this has been a bit of a game changer and very helpful for me. within this moment, their DMC 158 is used a lot in the bottom of In This Moment, and on the left hand side of In This Moment there is a bit of a color difference to the right side, and I think that that is probably, it might be concentration. It's not a perfectly symmetrical design, and so if there's a little bit more 158 over here, then it might look different. If there's less over here, it also might be a dye lot issue, and I just don't want a dye lot issue in my full coverage pieces. You know, they take years and years and years, and so seeing a dye lot change in a section on the design would be really, really quite a bummer. So I have started kitting up with whole skeins. I need to figure out how to organize this so that it's easier to find DMC 820 rather than having to dig through and try to find the dark blue. So, but anyway, so that's how I kit up HAEDs and Mirabilias and pretty much anything that's like a major long-term project. I like to have its own set of threads. So there's that. Okay, next question is coming from Amanda Stitches. And Amanda asks, what is that needle with the glass bead on top? What is it used for? So I actually have one on this project sitting here on the top. Y'all, this pile of whips that I have to show you goes up to here. It's not insignificant. So Amanda is referring to this. And I got this from Blackbird Stitchery. It's Carrie. And she is in the UK. She's here on FlossTube as Carrie and Stitches. And I bought their counting pins, is basically what it is. It's a counting pin. And I don't use this as a counting pin. I use it as a laying tool. I have found that I don't particularly love railroading. I will if I have to. But my preferred method for getting my stitches to lay nice is to use a laying tool. And this it's big, and you know, I've got chunky fingers, so this is great for holding on to. It's good. So I use this as a laying tool. Or I use it to frog too. I'll use it to pull stitches out. So that is what that is for. Amanda has another question. How many hours a week do you think you stitch? So here's kind of the lay of the land and how I stitch. Baby Does Stuff is sleeping until about 8:30, 9 o'clock these days. And so we get up at around 7. So this is my Monday through Friday schedule. We get up at around 7. And so I'll have my coffee and I will stitch until it's time to go shower and get her up for the day. So I get probably an hour and a half-ish in the mornings. Then I try to get about 2 stitch nights a week. It doesn't always work out that way, which is cool. So I kind of play it out that if I have stitch night, let's say I have stitch night on Monday night, then during nap, I'll do something else. Or if I know, like on Wednesdays are not stitch nights. Wednesdays are shows nights for us. So I will stitch during nap. And nap for Baby Does Stuff is about 2.5 to 3 hours on average. I hesitate to talk about this because I don't want to come off braggy, because I know that not everybody has kids that sleep, and my kid sleeps. But that's just kind of how I work it in. I have this philosophy to save for nap the things that I cannot do when she is awake. So, can I do dishes when she's awake? I can do dishes when she's awake. Can I pick up when she's awake? I can. A lot, because she's usually following me and making a mess as I go. But nonetheless, I can pick up when she's awake. Can I stitch when she's awake? No, I really can't. So I try to maximize sleepy time for me time. So that's kind of my philosophy there. The weekends are a little different. Weekends are usually, I usually stitch after breakfast. And hubby gets some time with baby does stuff. They go hang out. They usually go to his parents' house, or they go watch Sesame Street. You know, they go hang out a little bit. And then a lot of times Saturday nights are board game nights for my husband, and so those are usually long stitch nights. I try to go to bed. I try to go to bed around 11 o'clock during the week, and on the weekends it can be a lot later than that. But I also have revenge bedtime procrastination. I always have a hard time saying that, but it's pretty bad. You know, I try to soak up as much me time as I can. So anyway, so let's say I get 3 hours a day. So 15, I'd say 20 to 24 hours of stitching a week. That sounds a lot. That sounds like a lot. Yeah. So there's that. Okay. Last question. This comes up every time I share progress on one of my fancy ladies, one of my Mirabilias. And that is stitching skin 1/1. And how do you do that with blends? Because a lot of times, in particular with Mirabilia, they will have some blended skin colors. So you kind of have some choices with how to handle this. And I'll talk about my favorite method. So some people, if they are stitching the skin 1/1, they will actually do skin 2/1 in a half stitch. So you still get the fullness of a full stitch without doing both legs of the cross. That's not my favorite method. I don't love half stitch over one, but to each their own. So you can do that. So another option is it's usually a lighter and a darker thread. So you can do one leg in the darker thread and then the other leg in the lighter thread, or vice versa. And some people will do that to try to get the shading effect out of the darker thread. I tried that once, and you couldn't see what was underneath because the stitches are so tiny that you can't see what's underneath when you get them all in. So that was a lot of effort for not much payoff. So another option is you can try to find an in-between shade to make that transition, because a lot of times, you know, it's a shading technique to go from lighter to darker, and so you can try to find an in-between shade. So there's that. My favorite method is to do checkerboard. I'll do a checkerboard. So I'm going to insert a diagram of it here so that you can see this. This is using a stark contrast just to try to get my point across. If the goal is to blend white and black, then I will do top left and bottom right in a stitch in white and top right and bottom left in black, so that you still use all of the same colors, but it still kind of gives that gradient, if you will. I'm going to insert some close-ups here of Raven Queen, because Raven Queen I know has at least one skin tone blend. And so I'll insert a close-up here so that you can see how this works out. It's been my favorite method to try to handle the blends. One thing I know for certain is that I am consistent. If in that example I just gave you, if white is top left and bottom right, then no matter what, white is in top left and bottom right, and black is in top right and bottom left. And that still reigns true even if I run into quarter stitch situations where I'm doing perhaps only 3 of those stitches. Then black is still in bottom left and white are the other 2. So I'm adamant, I'm consistent. I try very hard to to keep that exactly as it's supposed to. So like I said, I'll insert a picture so that you can see this in action. That's my favorite method. Okay, shall we get to the stitching? I think it's about time. Thank you all so much for your questions. If you have any questions, by all means, leave them in the comments below and I will either get back to you in the comment section or on my next video. All right. As I said, we have 6 or 7 weeks to go over. So I printed out my calendars for June and July just so that I could keep this all straight. For the most part, if there's a project that I worked on in June and July, it's further down the stack. It was just the easiest way for me to try to figure out how to do this. The only exception to that is the first project, because the last time we spoke, I was getting ready to put Personal Sunshine on the frame. So that lives in this super cute project bag this is by TheBrassButton. And, oh, upside down. Here we go. That is what this will look like finished. This is a Heaven and Earth Designs. The artwork is by Jeremiah Kettner. This is my oldest HAED. And so I was working on this probably for WIPGO. I cannot tell you why I worked on everything because I'm gonna get confused and I'm not gonna remember. But it was probably for WIPGO. It's pretty safe to assume. This is on my Q-Snap because in this last week, I was trying to make this my daily block project. And I didn't get very far. I only worked on it for 1 day, so I only got 2 blocks on that 1 day. But that's why it's on the Q-Snap. So, full coverage never looks good on my camera. It's okay. It looks better in person. It looks so good in person. This is a 25 count Lugana, and I'm stitching 1/1 full cross as I do for all of my HAEDs. And I was getting started on page 7 here. So this is the first page in the second row of this design. And except for those 200 stitches, everything in this page was done in June. How cool is that red flower there? Isn't that pretty? I love the pop of that red flower. And I'm gonna get to another one here towards the bottom of the page. I love that. I love the purples in this design, don't get me wrong, but just that sudden change of color, that was really cool. There's a lot of confetti in this section. You see those little petals? 3 or 4 colors a piece and not a whole lot of repeating. But worth it. I think it's turning out really beautiful. And I'm really very much enjoying working on this one pretty consistently again. So this is going to bleed into plans a little bit, but this will be staying on my Q-Snap until the page finish. And I will try to work on it, give or take a block a day, to try to get the page finished in August. But I will show you my WIPGO boards in a little while. So that is Personal Sunshine. And my before and afters for a lot of these are going to have my June progress and my July progress separate. So lots of before and after showcases today. Okay, up next, one of my primary WIPGO calls for the month of June was Mouse House. Sorry for the glare. This is a Buttons and Beads kit from Mill Hill, and it was a lovely gift from Carolina. And I adore this piece. I really, really enjoy it. So I did not get my WIPGO goal complete in June, but that's okay. I worked on it for a couple of days. I didn't have a whole lot of time, and I had too many projects to work on at the end of June. So there was no way that I was going to be able to get 5 days or 1,500 stitches into this before having to switch, but nonetheless. So this is on a 28 count cachet linen in Ale from Picture This Plus. I had originally started this on the perforated paper and I wasn't enjoying my stitches on it, and so I just decided to scrap that and switch to linen, which is my favorite anyway. So so this time I pretty much worked across the top and I'm all the way to the right side. I even did some beads, all of these flowers, it's lots of beads. And I really enjoyed working on this. Oh, can't hold it by the tag, Jess. Yeah, I really enjoyed working on this. I think it's gorgeous and I love it on the linen. Fairly little, but that, I mean, I was expecting that. It's a buttons and beads kit, so that is Mouse House. Okay, after Mouse House, I worked on a few things that I'm going to show you later on down the stack. So we're going to actually switch over to July now, because July, I made it my mission to try as much as I possibly could to get caught up on my full coverage whipco board. So you're going to see a whole bunch of different full coverage pieces in this video. I got woefully far behind on my full coverage whipco board, and I am still feeling the desire to have a new full coverage start. And so I knew that I had to get caught up as much as I could. And so task number 1 in July was to get the page finish on Magic Study. So preview here of what this will look like finished in a long time. And here is where I'm up to. Page finish! Yay! I'm so excited. This is a 25 count easy grid Lugana, 1/1 full cross. And I am thrilled. Gosh, it looks so much better in person. So much better in person. But anyway, so the string of lights here brought down, and that right there is dragon butt. That's tail right there. So page 1 is finished. Unfortunately, this project is going up on the shelf for probably the rest of the year. But my hope is that until it becomes a focus piece, to continue finishing at least a page a year on this one. It's going to be a slow process with this piece, but that's okay. That's okay. It's joy in the journey. So that is Magic Study. So I was able to, on the 2nd, on Saturday the 2nd, I was able to knock off a full coverage whipco block, that was great. That was like the best way for me to start this month off. So next came Snow Castle, also by Heaven and Earth Designs. My plan was to work on this on the Q-Snap, but then I just ended up making it my focus piece for a long time. I wasn't expecting this page to take as long as it did, but anyway. So I was at the halfway mark on page 5 here. And so for my whipco block, I needed to finish the page. With Magic Study, I think I needed 1,400 stitches. With this one, I needed the full half a page, so roughly 3,500 stitches. But got the page finished in, it looks like 6 days. Gosh, that's a long time. But anyway, it's a long time based on the amount of things that I wanted to get to this month. Anyway, so yeah, page finish. The top turret is looking so good. It's so good. I'm really enjoying stitching the tower. And here you can see a dragon nose. So I'll insert a preview here of what this will look like finished, but you can see Smoke Dragon nose here, which I think is cool. Over here is Smoke Dragon eyeballs, and it's really muddy. You can hardly see that at all. Which is a little frustrating. It's a little annoying, but anyway, I love this piece, and I saw that Deborah, AZ Needleworker, recently started this, and so good, so good. Happy to enable. So that is my snow castle, and I'm so stoked. This still has, I think, one block on my Whipco board, my full coverage Whipco board, that I still have to catch up on. So we'll see if I can make that happen relatively soon. So this page over here is like a half page, but I have decided that I'm still going to treat it as if it was a whole page. My goals on my full coverage Whipco board is a half page, and so if that's only 4,000 stitches, then my goal is 2,000 stitches of it. And it will just be a faster Whipco block. That's okay. So that is Snow Castle. Very fortunately, 2 of the blocks on my full coverage Whipco board were going to be super fast to obtain. They were 14 and 1,500 stitches, and that would get me to the half page mark. So it was super easy to be able to knock out multiple goals this month. So I chose what my next project was going to be, because I wanted to knock out another goal quickly, because Snow Castle was on the Q snap for a really long time. So I chose the next one, and the next one was Quick Stitch Day and Night. Heaven and Earth design, artwork by Nadia Stralkina, and I adore this piece. I love this one so much. I love these colors. This is beautiful, and I'm really excited to work on it again. I started this for my birthday in 2020. So this project is over 2 years old, and this is what I got to show for it. It's fine. But I am at the half page mark now. It took 2 days. It took 2 days to get here, because the colors just flow so beautifully, and I enjoy the colors. So that is Quick Stitch Day and Night. Quick Stitch is a misnomer. This project is huge. Stitch count on the screen. It's big. It's not little. It's just half of the original artwork. So it's just the night portion of the original artwork. But there is that one. We're working our way through the stack here. So up next is a project that I worked on very little in June and quite a bit in July. So that lives in this project bag. This is a Mamalee bag by Emily C. And you will notice that most of the birds are headless. She kind of did that on purpose, but cool bag, isn't it? And in here lives my Leah Gronow 1872. Excuse the crinkle. And this is a reproduction sampler from Merry Wind Farm. And I love this project. I love it. I am working as best I can to try to get this finished in September. I would love to finish this in sampler September. So in June, I broke up what I had left over, I think, 4 months. I broke it up into 4 equal sections. And so I'm trying to work on this a section at a time. I'm a little bit shy of where I should be here at the end of July, but very slightly. So here is where I'm up to. And I know that my June section was super quick, which is good because I had 1 day to work on this. And it was just, I think, this planter here. I probably had some border work that I didn't get to, but it was this planter and I think this bird here. And then here in July, I worked on this for a nice long, looks like 5-day rotation to get the tree done to my goal line, so you can see my goal line. And you can see that like I didn't get all of the border work done to my goal line, but that's okay. Pretty close. And then I got into the house, and boy is the house fun to stitch. I'm always intimidated by houses on samplers, and then I get to stitching and I'm like, this is so much fun. I'm really enjoying this. I don't really want to stop stitching, but I'm always intimidated by that big section of color. What helps is that this is charted in DMC to do the house in DMC, and I chose a color in cotton just to make it a little bit more interesting. This is a 32 count Belfast linen in Vintage Meadow Rue by Lakeside Linens. And the design is charted originally in Gentle Arts wools and a couple of DMCs. And I switched to sampler threads, and all of the DMCs I swapped out for some fancies of some kind. I discovered that while I was working on this planter that I actually made a mistake. Over here, the inside of this center flower is supposed to be in the blue, but I oopsie daisied, so I just repeated that same oops over here. No big deal. This is so much fun. I really enjoy stitching this. And I cannot wait to get to this in August to get a big chunk of the house done. I don't remember how far my August section goes, but I think I'm going to be pretty close, if not done with the house, by the end of August. And then a sampler September border finish. I'm so excited. I am so excited. And this one is going to go to total framing for me. I've already decided. I just have to decide if I'm driving it up or mailing it. Anyway, so that is Leah Gronow. One of my primary board whip go calls for July was this next project, and this is the Stark House Banner by LolitaMade on Etsy. And preview here of what this will look like finished. This is being stitched on a 32 count Belfast linen in Valyrian steel from Hand Dyed Fabrics by Stephanie. My nail is getting caught on something. Oh, that looks so good. Isn't that gorgeous? I'm stitching it using DMC 762. And I was working basically in here. This is what I did this rotation. So like I said, my primary whip go board, the goal is 5 days or 1,500 stitches, whichever comes first. I wasn't committing to spending a whole lot of time on this, but I wanted to at least get started on that goal, and with the plan to finish it up a little bit later in the year. But I got it going, and monochrome stitching is just a lot of fun. I load up a couple of needles and I get going, and yeah, it's pretty good. I have to pay attention over here though, because it's not, it's not a smooth circle. So anyway, it's fun. It's lots of fun. I took this with me to retreat thinking that monochrome stitching and that repeating border that goes forever would be great, but it never came out. It never came out at retreat. And I adore this fabric. It is like a perfect purpley gray. And I don't think that this one is in her regular line. I don't think that any of her Game of Thrones inspired fabrics are in the regular line, but beautiful. This one I think I might bring back the For the Throne Sow when the new series starts up this month. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. So that is the Stark House banner. So up until I left for the New Jersey retreat, and then again after retreat, I was working on this piece. So this is Alice in a Dali Dream, artwork by Jasmine Beckett Griffith. This is a beautiful, beautiful project for which I am up here. I started this during Mania of 2017, and this was another one that I only needed 14 or 1500 stitches, I can't remember what, to get my whip go goal. So I worked on this. I gotta tell you, leading up to retreat, I was not feeling like stitching. I did every day. I haven't stitched yet today, but otherwise I have stitched every day in the month of July, but I stitched very little. Like one day I think I did 90 stitches. Because I think I was just anxious leading up to a retreat. I was anxious. And so settling to stitch was not so easy. But after I got back, I put another couple of days into this to finish out my whip go goal. And this is so much fun. This is probably my most difficult. Magic Study is pretty difficult just because of the sheer size of that fabric. But this besides that, this is my most difficult. And the reason for that is that I started this one in a different place than I did all of my other HAEDs on this Easy Grid fabric. This was my first project that I ever started on this, and figuring out which stitch is your first stitch is pretty subjective. So for this one, my first stitch is the first one inside the grid lines. And for all of the other ones, my first stitch is that grid line stitch. So this is inside the grid lines. You can see the grid line running across and down the side. And on my other ones, it's covering because I chose a different place to put my first stitch. So my 10th stitch is on the grid line. I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm explaining that correctly. But the mental the mental strength that's required to remember that this one is different, it's more significant than you might think. I really have to think about specifically where to park threads on this one, because my number one stitch is different on this one than any of the rest. Anyway, this is a lot of fun. I love all of the colors. So many of my HAEDs that are in this first page status, there's not a whole lot of color going on, and this one's got just confetti color, but in a good way. Like, I'm enjoying the pops of color. This blue section is the obelisk that the elephant is carrying. So once I get to the bottom corner of this page, I'll get I think most of that first elephant. This one here. So I think I'll get most of him. So that is Alice in a Dali Dream. Oh, I love this piece. The most fun is comparing my progress to those who are stitching the mini. So Sammy J Stitches, for instance, I know that she's stitching the mini and she's fairly far along on it. And like, she's got a whole bunch of Alice's hair done, and like, I'm not going to see hair for a long time, for a very long time. It's just very interesting to see the comparison. So that is that. Okay, let's get to retreat. Cross-stitch retreats are not for cross-stitching, at least not for me. I don't get a whole lot of stitching progress during retreats. And so I took 10 or 11 projects with me and worked on 3. Yeah, but I mean, that's just the way it worked. Catching up with friends that we literally haven't seen in years and getting to meet people that I hadn't yet met. Yeah, that's just how it goes. So the progress that I made is not a whole lot, but that's okay. It's all good. So these are the things that I worked on while at retreat. I started with this project here, which lives in this project bag by Diddly Daddle Designs. And this is my Have Faith by Cottage Garden Samplings. I thought this was a good one to start off with because the color sections carry for a long while, so I could pay half attention, but get some stitches in. So I worked on this on Thursday night and most of Friday, whatever stitching I got done on Friday. And this is a whole bunch of mess of parked threads that's going to make it difficult to see anything. This is where I got to. So this is a 32 count linen in vintage cedar plank by Lakeside Linens. It's very funny. I was sitting next to Ingeborg, a stitch too far, and she was working on a project that was on 40 count vintage cedar plank, and that was just very cool that we were both working on the same color fabric. I think that's actually why I decided to pull this one out. So yeah, so I mean, if this is your first time, I did swap out family instead of faith, and I made some necessary adjustments to make that fit. This is a project that I'm trying to finish in August, and so like Leah, I chunked up the pattern into equal sections to try to see that goal accomplished in August. I only worked on this while at retreat this month, so my 300 stitches was definitely not to my goal line, but I don't have a whole lot left. I've got the rest of this leaf. I have to connect all of the green stuff here. So you can see, I'm pretty close. And then the very top row of this section, this pattern here, is a part of what was my July goal. So I'm not too far off. And I think that an August finish is definitely in the cards. I'm gonna do my best to make that happen. So that's what Have Faith looks like. This is charted in Weeks Dye Works, and I went with Vinnie's provided DMC conversion. There's a couple of things about that though. The lettering, the capital letter in all of these is filled in with a gold, and I'm leaving that blank. Yeah, and I think that's the only thing. It's funny, in every single one of these that I have started, there are two DMCs that are so close together you almost can't tell the difference. It happened in Forever and Ever. I had to make a change in Merry and Bright because the berries, those two reds were too close together, and here, believe it or not, there are two different greens here, which you can kind of see on camera, which is nice. And there's two greens in here. Again, you can kind of see that on camera. Anyway, I just find that interesting that the Weeks Dye Works to DMC conversion in 3 separate instances. It's just interesting. So one of the sort of planned events at the New Jersey FlossTube retreat was what was being called the 6 in 6, and I think Lori Once Upon a Stitch is the one who came up with this, in which you could start 6 projects, 1 per hour, or you could, I mean, there were no prizes or anything, so you could work on the same project for 6 hours and just take pictures so that you can see progress. I waffled so many times. I was going to start 6 different projects. I was going to work on all of my long dogs and make some long dog starts to have 6. I was gonna do all Christmas things. I was gonna do all whips. I waffled a whole lot. So this kicked off at, I think, 8 o'clock on Friday night. That was our first 6 and 6, and it was going to be Friday night and Saturday morning. And about 8:30 is when I was FaceTiming with my family here back at home to say goodnight. And so I was basically out for the first one. I also wasn't prepped and ready for the 8 o'clock start time. So I didn't end up doing 6 and 6. I just didn't. But there was one thing that I for sure was planning on starting during retreat. And that lives in this beautiful project bag. This was a birthday gift. The bag is made by StitchnButton. And in here is one of the new releases from Long Dog. It is Ragnarok. Now, if you know me and my husband, Norse mythology is just kind of our thing. We really appreciate Norse mythology. Our bulldog was named Thor, and not just for Chris Hemsworth. I'm always fascinated by Norse mythology. A lot of our board games are Norse themed, and one of Danny's favorite board games is called Blood Rage. And it's all about gods and monsters in Norse mythology. And so when this released, I showed it to him and he went, "Oh, that's Yggdrasil, the tree of life." And so I had to start it, right? I mean, I had to. So I asked him what kind of a colorway would you like this to be? And he said, it would be really cool if it was a red background with black stitching. And I said, okay, I can do that. That's harder of an ask than I imagined it to be. I thought I was going to dye my own fabric. There is Weeks Dye Works Aztec Red, and I don't really like Weeks Dye Works linens. And then I found this one, and this is Sweeney Red from Dames of the Needle, and it's a 40 count linen. And I think it's pretty perfect. It's a pretty great red, right? So I started this while at retreat, and at some point you'll have seen a preview of what this will look like finished in a million years. It's huge. It's 309 by 361, I think. It's big and beautiful, and I am so excited. So here's another Long Dog that I'm stitching for our game room. Opening Gambit, and now Ragnarok. This thing is so cool. So Jules of Long Dog Samplers, she put in a whole bunch of interesting things about the various elements in this design and the pattern. It's a whole long list. And then there's also some red herrings, if you will, some things that wandered in from other designs. There's a tapir that wandered in from, I think, Anzac. just Jules just being so cool. So anyway, so that is my start on Ragnarok, and I am so looking forward to working on this again. I don't know when, because it was a 2022 start, so we'll see. But I'm just thrilled. I'm so excited to have this started. One of the other projects that I wanted to start while at retreat was First Day of Christmas by Hello from Liz Matthews. But after chatting with Ingeborg, there were a couple of changes that I wanted to make, and I wasn't totally ready to start this. I didn't have the threads that I needed. I was still kind of waffling on fabrics if I was going to go with a darker neutral or a lighter neutral. So I just decided to postpone that. But I still wanted to work on something Christmas. And the 2 Christmas whips that I brought with me, I wasn't feeling. So let's have a new start. And so the project that I started, it's so funny. This was like the last thing that I threw in my bag to take to retreat. I don't have a whole lot of kitted things, so I don't typically go and look at my kitted projects, but for whatever reason, I was inspired to pick this one. And then Lynette from Homesteading on the Homefront was there. So I thought, okay, maybe this is a good time to start 'Tis the Season. So, 'Tis the Season by Blackbird Designs. This is found in the Home for the Holidays book. And I have had this kitted up since Lynette ran this stitch along, what, 4 or 5 years ago? I've had this ready to go. Linen, threads, and that's just not my style. Like, I just don't have a bunch of things kitted up and ready to go. It's just never been me. But this one I had ready to go. And so I was like, okay, this is the perfect thing for me to start. Since first day of Christmas is not going to work, let me start this. It was ready. So I got this started. And this is using all of the called for silks. I shouldn't say that. It's mostly the called for silks. The one substitution I made was the white, because a white silk, I had one. This is Karen Waterlily's Hint of Mint. And if I have to fussy cut some stuff out, then I will. So, all of the beautiful Belle silks. Some of these were a gift from McKenna, and then I bought the ones to fill it in. So this is on a 32 count Belfast linen in Galeen by Under the Sea Fabrics. And here's my start. Now, I did start the crest of the bird, or the top of the bird's head, but I'm gonna rip those stitches out because I don't love them. This was the last thing that I worked on before I hit the road on Sunday, and I was not totally focused on stitching, and so my stitches just aren't very pretty, so I'm gonna rip that out and start that part over. But I did get started on the leaves and the vine, and I think this fabric is going to be pretty perfect for this design. I know it calls for a neutral, but I thought a wintry blue, that's pretty great. So that is 'Tis the Season. Okay, so my family came home. They went out to the grocery store and they just came home, got everything unloaded, and now let's get back into it. I have a couple more projects to show you. Bluebeard's Princess Mirabella. This is the one that's probably seen the most progress since the last time I showed it to you, because I'm working on this in sections, and I have to get my section done every month, no questions asked. And it was also a Whip Go call for this month. So here's something kind of interesting. Originally on my Whip Go board, in this particular space, I had American Eagle by Blackbird Designs. And I did the draws for this shortly after Roe v. Wade was overturned. You can imagine that I wasn't feeling very patriotic. I was a little disappointed, to say the least. So I made the decision to swap this project into my Whip Go board because it wasn't previously. I'm already working on it every month, so I might as well make it a Whip Go project. So I decided to pull this out. In addition to that, I've talked several times this year about the year-long event in the Daily 30 group, and I had an opening, and I thought, well, I'm working on this every month already, so why don't I put it into that? That makes sense, doesn't it? I thought so. So this is Bluebeard's Princess Mirabella, my oldest Mirabilia, on the go, and I have done so much skin since you last saw this project on my channel. I have done 2 rotations on this, I think a total of 10 very focused working days since the last time you saw this. So that is what it will look like finished. It is still on my frame because I finished my section for July at like 11:30 last night. And so let me go ahead and pull it up. And here's where we are up to. Oh, she's so good. She's looking so good. This is on a 32 count Belfast linen in NYX from Under the Sea Fabrics. I started her in March of 2016, and I am now skin done. Skin is complete. I'm so excited. I am so excited. Yeah, so you can see that line there where my July section ended, and so many barked threads. There are a surprising number of colors in this design. I'm not mad at it, but there's quite a bit of colors. 4 Karen water lilies, a pile of DMC, 4 Krynics. I mean, you know, just a lot, but so much fun. Lots of fun to stitch. So let's talk about some changes that I am making. I am stitching the skin 1/1. Let me rephrase that. I have stitched the skin 1/1. And I am using 3 of the Krynics I converted to Petite Treasure Braid just based on what I had in my stash. And the border around this design I don't care for. So it's a single stitch line, and then there's like 11 stitch sections of silk around the border. I'm not doing that. I don't love the way that looks. So I swapped it out for a single herringbone stitch using Dinky Dyes, but you can't tell what color it is. It's a very light purple, but it doesn't really show up as such on the fabric. But that's okay. It's serving the purpose of the border for me. So yeah, about 5,000 stitches have gone into this since you last saw it. And I think she's really gorgeous. I keep saving this to the end of the month, and this is the only one where like I have to get to my goal line. Have faith in Leah Gronow. Like, if I don't get to my goal line, then that just means that I've got a little bit extra to do at the end. But with this one, I have to get to my goal line because some friends and I have all picked a pattern that we broke up over 12 to spread out across the year. And so it's my mission to get my section done each month. So anyway, I keep saving this to the end of the month, and I've got to change that. I need to work on this much sooner than the last few days of the month, because it's like a fury to try to get the goal accomplished. Anyway, done. So excited. I love the way that looks, and can't wait to work on her again. And it's gonna go a lot faster now that the skin is all done, which is very exciting. Okay, up next is a project that I don't think I've worked on in a couple of weeks, but it's the one thing that I think I may work on today if I get to stitch today, and that is the Halloween Sampler by Cottage Garden Samplings. So this is a project that was called for WIPGO a couple months ago, and at the time when I pulled it out to work on it, I think it was in June, the first time I worked on it, I realized that there were a convenient 27 Sundays to the end of the year. And so that's just one extra Sunday over a full alphabet. And since I was part the way through this, I had through Dracula the first time that I worked on this, I thought that would be really cool if I could break this up and work on it one letter every Sunday, and then I can have this finished by the end of the year. I will have to work on some of the extra motifs that are sprinkled about, but that's okay. The words themselves go pretty quick. Some of them are a little longer. Frankenstein, that was a bigger doozy. but just working on it a little bit every Sunday. And so I'm calling it my Spooky Sundays now. And so I work on this every Sunday. I'm not going in alphabet order because that's just too much moving the Q-snap around, because this is one that I have on the Q-snap. But so I'm just going to work whatever words I can get in entirety on the Q-snap here, and then I'll move around. So far this year I have done Eerie, Frankenstein, and Imitate, and if I get to stitch today, then I'm going to do Jinx because it's super short. And if you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, the All-Star season that just ended, that could be fun. So that is my plan. I am using all of the called for Gentle Art sampler threads. They aren't turning out quite like the cover. The capital letters is done in Blackbird, so it's supposed to have a bit of a blue tone to it. And the rest of the word is done in Raven, which is very dark gray, verging on black, and a hint of green. But you can't really see any of that in my stitching because my skeins of Raven that I have for this project are very dark. So, but that's okay. I'm going to continue stitching it exactly as it started, and maybe eventually some of that variation will show up. But the cover leads me to think that those capital letters are very blue. Mine are not. Mine are not very blue. But that's okay. This is fun. Lots of fun to stitch. So that is it for the projects that I have worked on since I last saw you 6 or 7 weeks ago. Very, very cool. So since that's the only project that I think I will work on today, maybe Personal Sunshine for a block, but I highly doubt that. Let's switch over and talk about plans. Yes. Okay, we'll talk about plans. So tomorrow is August, and August, for me, historically speaking, I participate in Arbitrary August. Arbitrary August was created by Sarah StitchnMommy. The original basis for the event was to work on a different project every single day, chosen randomly, chosen arbitrarily, throughout the month. That doesn't work for me. Switching projects every day that's not my jam. I have done a bunch of different things for Arbitrary August over the years. One year I worked on only projects that I hadn't yet worked on. I oftentimes do a Whip Go Catch Up Arbitrary August. That is my plan for this August. So I have a list here of projects that I need to get to this month, either for the various events that I participate in or to play catch up on Whip Go. It's lengthy. These last four here, Fantasy Sal, Marianne Aldred, April AD, and Ravenkin, are Whip Go calls for the month of August. Marianne Aldred, I am not going to work on this month. I will work on that in September for Sampler September. And Ravenkin, I am also probably not going to work on this month. I think that would be a really great one to have in my Q-snap for a block a day in October. And so that's going to be my plan for October. So this one's going to be a holdover until that point. Everything else is fair game. So I put all of this into a wheel, and I had my husband spin the wheel for me. And the first thing to come out was Have Faith by Cottage Garden Sampling. So that's going to be task number 1. My plan for these is to do 3 days. Whatever I get in 3 days. It may not complete the goal. It's certainly not going to complete the goal on Bluebeard's Princess, or it's not going to complete the goal on any of the full coverage pieces that I have here. But that's okay. I'm good with that. The only exception to that rule is Have Faith. I'm going to work on that until it's finished because I want that finished this month. And so I think that would be a really great way to start off the month. So I could be working on that for quite a few days, and then I will spin the wheel again and see what comes up next. So there's going to be a lot of variety this month. That's a lot of projects. Personal Sunshine is not on the wheel because that will be a block a day until I get the page finished, until I get both of my WhipGo goals caught up with that. I'm going to show you my WhipGo board here in a second. And April is not on the wheel either, because once I finish the blocks for Personal Sunshine, then I will move on to April AD. Snow Castle is on the wheel because I can't work on that on the Q-Snap, on that far right page. It bumps into my Lowry, and it's not fun stitching that way, so that one's going to have to go on my Millennium, and that won't be a Q-Snap stitch, which is okay. That's all right. So yeah, so that is the plan for this month. Okay, so let me show you WhipGo stuff. And we are going to start with my primary board. So here's what things look like at the beginning of July, with Bluebeard's Princess Mirabella and Stark House Banner being called. And then I have Prairie Schooler, Alphabet, and Crescent Dreams. Those are done. So, so there is that. And here is what that board looks like moving into August. So this month I was only able to mark off Bluebeard's Princess because Stark House Banner still needs a few days. Halloween Sampler is still 1 day short. I've now worked on that 4 days since it was called. So there's that. But that's going to get, if I work on it today, then I can block that off today, which I might do because that would be fun to have a second block complete. And then you see 20 and 25 were called for August. So we have the potential for 2 more bingos. But like I told you, I'm not working on Marianne Aldred this month. So anyway, so there's that. Okay, the full coverage board is much more fun. You can see a big change. So here it was at the beginning of July with all of this called and not yet finished. Alice was called in July. Snow Castle was called in July. I made the decision that if I'm playing catch up and I've got 2 blocks with the same project, then I mark the one that is the oldest. So unfortunately, when I get to the half page point on Personal Sunshine, that is number 8. 8 was called earlier than 9, which means that a bingo. I'm going to need the full page finish for that. So that's kind of a bummer. But anyway, so here is what it looks like moving into August. So you can see that I was able to mark off 4 blocks. Magic Study, Quick Stitch Day and Night, Alice in a Dali Dream, and one of the Snow Castles. The older of the Snow Castles I was able to mark off this month. So that feels pretty great. The downside to that is that Alice in a Dali Dream and Quick Stitch Day and Night were my 2 short ones. And now it's just basically full half pages from here on out to mark off this board. So I have told you that I need 2 bingos on this full coverage board in order to start another full coverage. So if I get the page finished on Personal Sunshine, which will block off both of these, and then I move into April and get that half page marked off, then I can potentially start Little Wings in September, which is my goal. That's actually the plan. So I'm going to be working pretty consistently as best I can on Personal Sunshine, and then April to be able to start Little Wings because I'm in the mood. I want to start it really bad. So I've got to get it kitted. I've got to get that prepped and ready to go. So that is WhipGo. That's where we are with WhipGo. And yeah, we're just careening towards the end of the year, which is wild. Okay, so let's get to it. We're gonna start off with a bit of stitchy kindness. I don't know what I did, but I have been so very spoiled. Dawn Marie of DM's Crafty Vortex sent me a series of what do you likes on Instagram a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't know what was happening, but the long story short is that I want to say about 2 weeks ago something arrived in the mail, and it is beautiful, y'all. This is next level amazing. So Dawn Marie made me a beautiful project bag. Right? Oh my goodness, this is gorgeous. This is just unbelievable. It is so stunning. So, unzip here, and it's double pockets. So, there's 2 pockets there. My Magic Study lives in here because Dawn Marie is also working on Magic Study. She's working on the newer version, the version that's available still, because Magic Study is actually, it's technically out of print. It was a limited edition. They did release, Heaven and Earth Designs did release a, what I would consider more of a rainbow version, and I think it's even called the rainbow version. Much brighter colors. Anyway, we're both working on a version of Magic Study, and so I figured I would put my Magic Study in here. So that's what lives in this stunning, stunning project bag. My jaw hit the floor when it arrived. And then there's also a companion notions pouch with that beautiful gold fabric and the purples, and oh my goodness. Dawn, if you're watching this, and she's in the midst of watching my old videos, so every now and again she'll leave a comment on video like 94. I'm like, wow, that's baby Jessie there. Anyway, if you're watching this, again, thank you. This is stunning. Okay, let's get to some stuff. And first up, we're gonna start with actually what arrived this week. So this is something that I bought for my birthday. It was a birthday present to myself. And it finally arrived this week. And it is this. I don't even know if I can hold them all. So this is the, I think it's the Vernal Visions collection from Fortnite Fabrics. I bought the whole collection. I couldn't help it. So I'm going to see if I can remember what they're all called, and I'm not going to be able to, but this is Fuzzy Stamen, gorgeous warm golden yellow color. One of these is Petal Petter. I can't remember. This one is my favorite. This is Girthy Stem. It's much richer than that, but it's a beautiful bright green, a little bit richer. This is Partly Cloudy, a nice soft gray, kind of a lighter gray. And this is the Dirt. And I'm opening this one up because after talking with some friends, I think that I might put Gaia by Bella Filipina on this. This is so beautiful. It's kind of, it's a neutral with kind of a purple quiet undertone to it. This is so cool. So that was very cool. Derek and Christian have decided that they're not going to do the collections on their website anymore. That you're going to have to get the collections from your LNS, or from an LNS. But these are stunning, and I love them. I got the 32 count Belfast linen because I'm not as likely to use the brights for samplers, so I thought I will use the 32 count for fancy ladies from here on out. And that's just happy. It's just so happy. I love that so much. Okay, so there's that. Let's see. I was on 123 Stitch, just looking at their 40 count linen offerings, because 40 count has become a bit of an issue for just about everybody. And magically they had 40 count linen Picture This Plus in Heartland. I thought it was Heartland, but couldn't be sure. It's a little bit darker than that. It's a little bit richer than that. Picture This Plus linen has such a different feel to it. But nonetheless, Heartland. And the coveted Murky, 40 count Murky. Beautiful. This is so cool. Gotta give love to Murky. Okay. Up next is something that I'm so excited about. So I bought some needle minders, and I haven't bought needle minders in forever, but I needed some Schitt's Creek inspired needle minders. I watched Schitt's Creek from start to finish twice in the last, I don't know, 2 months. It's just so good. It's just so good. And I just happened to be on Etsy, and I found this Etsy seller, Capital Maker. I think that she actually has a website. She's not just on Etsy. Yeah, capitalmaker.com. Capital with an O. And she had some Schitt's Creek needle minders. 4 of them are on other projects. But here's a couple. The Moira's Roses Garden with the last 4 digits of Johnny's credit card. And Lake Rest. I also have Ew David, Simply the Best, and I have another one that's not Schitt's Creek, but it's super cute. It's a bottle with a little ghost inside, and it says dead inside. So cute. David. I have another one, but I can't remember what it does. They'll come up because they've been sprinkled in amongst projects. But I love them, and just love them. So this is going to have to go on something, and so is this. Anyway, thought I would share those because I'm all about Schitt's Creek. Love it. I know I'm like 4 years behind on that train, but it's fine. Everybody starts somewhere. Everybody is new at some point. Okay, here's a couple of charts that I bought because I was buying various things and they couldn't travel alone. This is the Piece Band Sampler by Heartstring Samplery. Colette, the Highway Stitcher, if you're watching this, you are to blame. Thank you. Yeah, I couldn't pass this up, so had to pick up the Piece Band Sampler. And then I'm trying to get into stitching smalls and smalls collections. This is the Snowball by Brenda Gervais. I picked up the Easter Jubilee earlier this year, and I just really like these. So there's 3 of them, and then there's 2 more on the back. I almost started this one, but I have a hard time with starting smalls. And then this is Jack-o'-lantern Jubilee. So there's those 2 or 3, and then there's 2 more pictured on the back. So these are great little books. Yeah, I love a good stitchy book. So that is that. I'm sure that there's more. In fact, I know that there's more. I bought a couple of Fox and Rabbit fabrics that I was auditioning for various things, but that's somewhere else. So let's get to the haul from Needleworkers. Okay, organized and ready to go. So I found Needleworkers to be a little bit short on supplies. the supply chain is still an issue. It's still very much an issue. And so they didn't have much in the way of already dyed fabrics. I didn't see any in the higher counts. They were still doing some dyeing for us while we were there, but there wasn't any like to browse through and pick up and you know, purchase right there at the store. It was mostly a custom dye situation. So that was a different experience, but it's okay because as far as fabrics are concerned, I just showed you 8 pieces of fabric. So like I'm good on fabric. I didn't really need any of the hand-dyed stuff. It would have been nice. I would have spent more money, but nonetheless. But I did pick up a couple of standard things. So I bought, this is Cottage Cream, 32 count Belfast. It's one of those printed fabrics, I think. But it's got some modeling to it. So I just picked that up just to have a neutral on hand. And I like those. It's kind of like the vintage country mocha aesthetic to it. And then I also picked up one of the long dogs I was considering starting for the 6 and 6 was Pandemic. I thought that was a bit appropriate since this was the first New Jersey FlossTube retreat since 2019. And the piece of 40 count linen that I had in stash was not big enough. So I picked up a yard of cream Belfast to eventually start Pandemic. And I'm going to do it in a DMC in the 730s range is what I plan to use for this. Just kind of a sickly green color. I thought was pretty perfect for Long Dog's Pandemic. No plans to start that, but I've got a ginormous piece of fabric with which to do it now. From what I understand, these came from Ginger Gerald. Now, Ginger Gerald was not at retreat, but Donna Ray and Buckeye Stitcher met up with him, and he handed over all of this stuff from Fat Quarter Shop. So they brought in a tub of stuff and just laid it out on the freebie table, and then it was like Black Friday sale. It was a little crazy there. So I got my way in there, and I was able to pick up one thing that I love. This is Granita from It's So Emma, and then Melissa and I got the same kind of quilt block enamel needle minder. So scooped those up off the freebie table. I tried to stay away from the freebie table because that's a dangerous place to go. I've picked up things from the freebie table at other retreats and then went, why did I pick this up? Why? So I avoided it. But I did pick this up. So there was that. Okay. Now back to stuff that I got at Needleworkers. This is from the Cottage Garden Samplings, A Time for All Season series, and this is number 12, Christmas Eve. And every time I see somebody working on this piece, I think I need that. So picked that up. I don't intend to do this whole series, but there's a few in this collection that I really, really like. This being one of them. Melissa and I picked up a project that we're probably going to stitch in about 3.5 business days. Fox and Rabbit, Charlotte Mills, 1844. But, I mean, can you even? Bright oranges and that really, really interesting border. And the flower baskets. This is gorgeous. So I had to scoop that up. I almost picked up fabric for this, but decided against it. Melissa, let me know when you're ready to stitch this up and we'll carve out a weekend so we can finish this. Yeah, anyway, love that. So gorgeous. This is something I saw on the wall and I walked around with it for a long time. I was holding it walking around and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put this down. This was my second trip to Needleworkers. I was like, I'm gonna put this down. They had the model up on the wall and it's stunning, but giant samplers galore in my stash and in my whips. Do I really need this? So I'm getting ready to set this down and I'm standing next to Megan, Wide-Eyed Stitching Child, and she goes, oh, I picked that up. I got that one either last time or the last time I was here, kind of a thing. And I was like, well, okay, fine. I guess I'll get it. So this is Anne Woodall, 1847 by Smoky Mountain Stitches. And it's these flowers that glow. They absolutely glow. And then, of course, I mean, a white deer. And the ground is done in satin stitch. Long satin stitches. This is so stunning. And the verse, to lasting brightness be refined, when this faint shadow flies away, the eternal beauties of the mind will last when all things else decay. Stunning. So gorgeous. And those flowers, they really do glow. I really wonder what this would look like on Murky. Somebody talked me off that ledge, but would this look cool on Murky? I'd have to change the color of the text. Carriage House samplings could take my wallet, and I don't know that I'd be too mad about it. Blooming Basket. It's the oranges and maroons. I mean, hello. This is really cool. Really, really cool. Also, super quick stitch. I mean, it's what? 157 square? Gosh, that's really not that big. It's really not. It's really not. Anyway, so there's that. I showed you Piece Band Sampler, and I also picked up my necessity. You're the cream in my coffee, you're the sole on my shoe, my necessity. I'd be lost without you. I thought that was really pretty. Kind of a similar aesthetic to the Piece Band Sampler too. So there's that. Here's another one. I tell you what, it's the models on the wall that just... I die. Anyway, this is beautiful. This is Sarah Rogers 1803 by Arachne's Silken Web. And this picture is not doing it justice. It is helping you see the bright pinks. The ground here is in 5 layers of vertical satin stitch. So this is gorgeous. It's just, I love the colors in it, and it's ginormous, but it's beautiful. $381 by $379, no big deal. Tried it in silken colors. So if I want to do this in the called for, then I better order those threads now if any of them are still available. Anyway, love. Gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. That is beautiful. This I picked up for a certain little lady in my life. My niece loves sea turtles, so I thought, oh, that would be a fun one to stitch for her. And I know some people are stitching this already this year, which is kind of what stayed in my mind. And then when I saw it in the store, I was like, ooh, yeah. So potentially that might be able to find a silks for you in some peacock colors, because her favorite colors are pink, purple, and teal. Peacock colors for a sea turtle. That has her name all over it. This is the piece de resistance, and this is going to be started next year. So just, perusing the store when Jasmine, Jazzy Stitches, pulls me aside and she says, Jassy, look at this. And so I picked the last one off the shelf. This is by White Lion Needle Art Designs. It is called For My Child, and it reads, no one else will ever know the strength of my love, for you, after all, are the only one who knows what my heart sounds like from the inside. It's ginormous. It's a Quaker. It's beautiful. Yeah, I'm really excited, and I think that this is going to be on my start list for next year. It calls for Garden Gate and Loganberry. I picked up a Gloriana silk, and it's in here somewhere. It's an antique rose color that I'm going to do for the text, and then I'll pick something else for outside here, because 5 to 9 skeins of Garden Gate, that's going to be very hard to track down. So I'll use something else. But I thought an antique rose and a dark something on the outside here, I think that would be really pretty. So that is the last of my purchases from Needleworkers. It's a lot. It's a lot. I don't know. It would be interesting to go back and see the things that I have purchased at retreats and see how much of it I've actually stitched. Yeah, I think that would be an interesting thing to look at. So anyway, that is all of that, all of the stash. I know that I've gotten a couple of A Year in the Woods from Cottage Garden Samplings, but those don't need to be shown. I know that I've received at least 1 or 2 3 Owl Threads monthly subscriptions and a Fabric of the Month from Color and Cotton, but all of that is in the stash. It's all put away. So this is enough gluttony. That is enough. So I am going to head off here. I need to get this edited and uploaded for your viewing pleasure. It may not go up until tomorrow. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. But I just want to thank you all so much for spending a whole bunch of time with me today. Thank you for going on this journey of playing catch up. I hope to get back to a more consistent filming schedule, but we'll see. We'll see. And I'm not going to hold myself to anything, you know. That's a silly notion. Okay, I'm headed off. Happy stitching, everybody. As always, be kind, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.